Welcome back to another episode of Other People's Lives. I'm Greg Dybeck.
I'm Joe Santagato, and for those of you who are just listening, we do have the episodes fully available on YouTube now, youtube.com/otherpeopleslives, so definitely go check that out.
Yeah, come watch us if you want. And we've got this week's guest on the line right now. Why don't you just tell us what we're going to be talking about today?
Hey guys, my name is Sergeant Mitchell, and I'm going to be talking about my experience in combat and PTSD.
I can speak for Joe here. We're like completely ignorant to life in the Army, and yeah, I think it's like part of it fascinates us a little too. It's like our obsession with prison. It's like
your obsession with prison.
Okay, right. My obsession with prison. It's something that's so fascinating, but I just cannot ever imagine being there. And I want to ask you. I mean, how young were you? I guess when you did join the military, is it something that you knew you always wanted to do?
So every, I think, unique story has a good beginning, right? And mine was, my own experience was very unique. I grew up a single child to a lesbian parent. I had no stability for, mid of my life or a masculine type of energy in my life. So I knew at my junior year of high school, I knew like, hey, I want to go in the Army and I want to be a Ranger. So for some reason, it just stuck with me. I didn't really have a clue of what they were, what they did, but I know that's what I wanted to be. So I did the delayed entry program, ended up joining the Army. This was like 2000, right? So this is all pre-stuff that we know for this war. And I was actually, I joined a volunteer 3 times. So I volunteered to be in the Army, I volunteered for airborne school, and I volunteered for the Ranger Indoctrination Program, which was called RIP. It's changed now to RASP. But so in basic training, I was actually out on a field exercise when 9/11 happened. And it's interesting to me because I thought it was part of the training scenario. I didn't think it was like real. I didn't think it was something that I was like, okay, they're just messing with us, right? And then the company commander at the time got up on this log and he's talking to all of us and he's like, this is it. Like these planes just hit the Twin Towers. You guys are about to go to war. And then, go to airborne school, graduate airborne school after that. And then I go to RIP. And so I was the entire time in the Ranger Indoctrination Program, I was constantly reminded about how small I am. So they're just like, you're not going to pass. You might as well quit. There's no way you're going to make it. And then each week, they would be like, Mitchell, what are you still doing here? Like, there's no way you're still here. And I made it, At that time, we already transferred over to tan berets. So I got my beret.
I feel like we're just so used to living in like a post 9/11 era that it's crazy to think about being in the Army, being young, in a time of, I guess you could say, relative peace, where it's like, okay, there was an attack on our country, and now you're going to war. I can't imagine what that feeling is.
It was definitely surreal. I mean, at that time, my mom was not all about her kid going into to Ranger Battalion, that's for sure. And she tried to talk me out of it, but there was no stopping me. That's a goal that I had and wanted to do it. And then after we got that word that we're going to leave, that was my first trip to Afghanistan. And the first portion of that trip, we really just kind of hung out. It was around Kandahar at the time. And it's like there was a general just keeping us around just to make him feel safe. That's really what it felt like. And then we ended up, we moved out to an undisclosed location in a safe house, they'll call it. And I'll never forget doing missions out of that safe house. One in particular, we're on a night movement. They have some SF guys, some spooks there, and they have this guy on this FLIR device. And the SF team is going to watch our movement. They got us, right? It's a night movement where we're walking along. And then the entire time we had to burn our shit. That's like a thing we had to do back then, you know what I mean? And they were burning shit. So that light just
Wait, actual shit?
We had to burn our shit.
Like human shit?
Well, human shit, yeah.
I didn't know you could light shit on fire.
All right.
It's amazing what you can do with JP8 fuel. So they put a little fuel in there and they burn it. Well, anyways, they're burning this shit while we're walking. So it drowns out our nods completely. And we were already pissed off about that, right? So we get back. We're like, yeah, what's going on with the movement? Because they were overwatching our movement. And I think our leaders just wanted to know, like, hey, how did we move? How did it look to you? And they're like, honestly, we saw about half of it. And then we moved into town and we started watching these Afghanis have sex on top of a building. So we have absolutely no clue like how the rest of your movement went. So That deployment wasn't too bad. Then we move on and we come back, right? So we come back from that deployment, and now they have this thing called expert infantry badge, right? So infantry people that go for EIB, and a Ranger battalion is no different. So we during our EIB, we got word that the invasion of Iraq is going to happen, right? So at that point in time, we get ramped up, we finish the IB, and then boom, we're off. Okay, again, staged in an airbase somewhere. Okay, and do you guys remember anything about the Iraq invasion or like the air campaign that kicked off?
I don't really remember at all now.
No, like what specifically? Like bombing campaign?
Well, what they did is like a lot of people, if they remember the war, they'll think about, okay, I remember watching on the news when we were going over there and we were bombing all the stuff before troops went in, right?
Right.
Well, our platoon at the time, and mind you, my platoon had a new member for this deployment. I don't know if you guys remember the football player Pat Tillman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pat Tillman was in my platoon. He's a great dude. Him and his brother Kevin. All right, so
Pat Tillman is for anyone who doesn't know, he left the NFL.
Yeah, he
right?
left the NFL to serve.
Yeah, correct, definitely. Yeah, number 40, Arizona Cardinal. He was a great football player.
Yeah, I mean,
right, so
he ended up getting killed. No.
Yeah,
he did.
Yeah, wow.
He did on a later deployment. So, here we are, ready to go, and we get word that President Bush wants a hit at Saddam's hometown, kind of like a show of force. And he wants it in Tikrit, so that's where Saddam's from, if nobody knows. So we go over there and do this mission, We're taking rounds like, first off, the mission itself was like Groundhog's Day, because where we were staged out of, each time we went out to these helicopters to get ready for this mission, they would cancel it for weather. It's like weather. This is like 3 days in a row. We go out there and get ready to do this mission. So we finally load the birds. We take off. We're taking shots out into our aircraft, but for some reason we had our doors closed while we were infilling, so they opened the doors. I'm sitting in the middle, little specialist me with my saw, and there are people hanging out, of the bird, just like shooting, these guys. They're shooting at us from trenches. It's probably about 2 clicks out from the objective, and then we're turning fire. We fast rope in. We set up 4 corners. Have you guys ever watched the movie Black Hawk Down?
Yeah.
So like that movie, where you kind of like set up a perimeter, 4 corners, and some other cool dudes go in and do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing that. And on my particular section, I'll never forget this. It was a night mission. The cool guys that came in right after us, these are, I'm SEAL Team 6 guys, so it wasn't like CAG or anything like that. They come in on their bird, which was this Chinook. Their door gunner actually got shot in the head right on infill. So there's a lot of stuff popping off. And it's a nighttime mission, so all of these, you got your night vision device on, so everything's like green, right? And the only way that they can see stuff is through infrared, so there's IR lights everywhere. And I'll never forget little birds, all right? These little helicopters flying around with SEAL snipers hanging off of them, just plucking dudes left and right. And then this vehicle comes up to one of our blocking positions. Our 240 gunner, shoots the vehicle, but doesn't kill the occupants, so they just keep rolling, but they're shooting at us with small arms. And then I know they're coming. Like, it's that moment where you're like, they're coming to my side. They come to my side. And my buddy Frank was right next to me. And I had my 249. I just remember lighting this car up, right? And light the car up. And somebody gets out of the car. You see the dome light come on. And all this stuff kind of happens in slow motion, right? So you see the dome light come on and somebody gets out. Military-age male. He's got a weapon. But he's getting ready to do something. And I'll never forget, my platoon leader, who was there close to my squad leader in my blocking position, was like, somebody killed that motherfucker, kill him. So I just remember taking a knee, clicking that laser on, shooting a burst, guy falls, and like a scene from a movie, that little bird with the IR light comes in and hovers over him. And you can just see that IR light on this guy, right? And then we head back, we load up after this mission, and we have to stop at some place. It's a refuel point for the birds, right? It's called a fart. And I just remember my buddy Sewell, he's like, dude, you killed somebody, like you got that, dude. And then we get back from that mission, and my team leader in Ranger Battalion at the time was like, hey, Mitchell, how many rounds did you shoot? I was like, I don't know, like, I think it was like 20. It was a big burst. I shot like 2 bursts in this guy, right? So then he like smokes me. He makes me do push-ups because I shot too many rounds. He said I was wasting ammunition.
Um, I mean, I think we have to ask, or we would be doing a disservice to everyone listening, because that was probably one of the most intense stories that have ever been told on this podcast. Um, what? I mean, what would you say prepares you to do that? I mean, I know it's the mission, it's the operation, it's what you have to do for the safety of you and your team. Can you prepare for a moment like that?
Yeah.
Is it just instinctive at that point, and how do you begin to kind of digest something like that?
So the Rangers in general, they're a more elite soldier who arrived at the cutting edge of battle by land, sea, or air. Ranger battalion, and that mentality prepares you for anything. And in that moment, it was just like a training exercise because Rangers train 3 times harder than they'll ever fight.
Mm.
None of my combat experience at Ranger battalion was ever harder than our training, ever, period. But I actually have, you know, a soldier of mine that I would love to join this conversation. His name's John Bailey, and he could share great insights for our time in the surge.
Yeah, we've got John on the line now too. How's it going, John?
Hey guys, how you doing today?
Good. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, man. Well, I heard you say something about what prepares you for going into combat and things like that. And there's actually a definition, and it's the definition is what's called a battle drill, and it's what we train in the infantry. And it's probably one of the most cold-blooded things I've ever read in my life. And what it is, verbatim, is a collective action rapidly executed without applying a deliberate decision-making process. So without applying a deliberate decision-making process, it's pretty wild. So when you get into those situations, you are more reacting than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it sounds like muscle memory and more, like you said, reaction more than, and not much thinking, just reaction.
Right. I mean, we got to like Sean said, we got to train for 2 years. I mean, that's a long amount of time. Not most units are fortunate enough to do that. And we were together. He was my team leader from basically the time I was a private in the military till, our deployment. And when we got over there, the first couple of months, I mean, we really weren't doing anything. We were kind of just handing out generators and getting ready. They kept telling us we were getting ready to go across the water. We really didn't know what that meant. So we were handing out generators, doing hearts and minds, making sure everyone got fed, that there was power inside the cities, running water. And
in the green zone, no less.
In the green zone. Yeah, in the green zone, no less. Because like you said before, they sent, I think, like 15 or 20,000 extra troops during the surge because it was, we were kind of losing stuff. And, we moved around out of the green zone to a couple of cops. And then they said, well, we're going to send you guys across the water to this place called Aldora. Now, in this place, Aldora, there haven't been coalition forces there for about 8 months. So that's a long time for people to dig in and, kind of just start running stuff. Mm. Now, when I got to Aldora, I was probably like 20 years old, and I came from a pretty hard place in the U.S. I mean, I came from but this is a pretty hard area. I've never seen people look at me like I was, messed up for being somewhere. Like you hear about people wearing black masks and like walking around with guns. Yeah, that was happening. It was crazy to see. It was like crazy. You just like get off your truck. It's like bang, bang, firefight. You're gonna start getting shot at. We used all of the smoke grenades inside of the country because the sniper threat was so scary. Like the sniper threat was so there and real that to move from building to building, you had to throw smoke and let it billow. Wow. So that you could run through the smoke to get into your next objective.
And then infilling into this place was insane. So we get on the ground and we know that we're going to replace an adjacent company. And the look that these guys gave us, they're like, have fun, dude. All right, bye. We're gone. Right. Make sure you throw smoke everywhere.
Jeez.
Yeah. Like, don't go down that alleyway we got shot at. Like, you got to jump that wall. I'll never forget it. You got to jump that wall. You can't go around the gate. The gate's locked. Well, it was just it's something that you really can't prepare yourself for no matter how much someone tells you. And the way I describe it for anyone that will never be there is the philosopher Plato, he has this thing called the anthology of the cave. And what it is me, you, everyone we know, we're just looking at a wall. There's a fire behind us, and that's all we've done our whole life. We're chained together. You know, all you ever see is your reflection on the wall, and maybe a person walking by, you know, with just their reflection. One day that chain breaks, and you see a light at the end of the tunnel, and you go outside that to see where that light is, and all of a sudden you're outside of a cave, and you see a whole another world. Mm-hmm. Trying to explain that whole other world to someone that's been chained up their whole life, it's really, really, really difficult. I mean, it's not even so much always terrible. It's just different. I mean, you're dealing with a completely different culture. The people there aren't all terrible by any means. Like, most of them, they're great human beings. There's sometimes bad things happen, and when they happen extremely fast.
I do want to ask too, like, going into an area of this where I guess it's an understanding that there will be a lot of combat and conflict. Is there a fine line between fear and excitement? Do you want combat? Is that something that you kind of seek out? I mean, so just joining the military in general, is that something that you in a way hope for?
That's all.
I think it's interesting that he brings that up, because it actually goes back to Dora. In our experience in Dora, we were split up. So our platoon actually held down the road. Let's say if you look down, you guys are in New York, right? So if you're looking down, you see one street, and it links up like between First and Second or something like that. And you're actually like, all right, I'm going to own First, right? All the bad guys are on Second. Well, if you split up First, we got our platoon down the road, and all of a sudden it was myself, it was John, it was John Wallace by ourselves, and they stuck our team out to this little safe house. You're like, you guys are gonna own this. Here's your radio. Good luck, right? So we're hanging out in this, and you're talking about it, you know, excitement and duty. So that really ties into our experience in this house that we were in Dora. And John, I mean, you can definitely attest to that. It was a huge difference between us and the rest of the element.
Yeah, it was definitely. I mean, our house was also being pointed out by people, and like we were getting, people knew where we were. That's all I can really say. Like, a lot of other folks were hidden. Like, people knew we were in that house.
Just three of you.
Just three of us. Like, we probably pulled in about 30 people. So 3 of us were watching about 30 men. Like, just had to have them in a room. And we had to keep them there, because our mission was to keep every single military age male that walked down that street. You need to pull them inside this house until we can question them.
Okay, that's what you mean by pulling in. So, wow. And that's actually a question I have. I think that brings up a good point. Like, the rules of engagement over there, does it make it difficult for you to fight? And like, is it difficult to, I assume, fight in a place where the enemy and the civilian kind of blend? Like you're saying, like, there's questioning. You don't know who's who. You don't know who is just living there trying to get by and who is plotting to, you know, kill you as soon as they get a chance.
Yeah, and someone said earlier that people just carry guns, so I feel like it would be hard to tell, like, who's a civilian and who's actually coming to attack you.
Well, that's actually the reason the surge was so difficult. So when the surge actually kicked off, we started making these combat outposts. So we made cops all around Baghdad. And originally, when these cops were manned by these units that were over there at the time, prior to our arrival, the fighters, they would attack these cops as hard as they could and as fast as they could. And they started realizing something like, hey, we can't win this. We're not going to win by attacking these cops. So it got really quiet for a little bit. It got quiet, meaning that they just blend into a population that was easy to hide amongst, because everyone looks the same. Everyone's, you know what I mean? It's not like they're wearing a traditional military uniform on a force-on-force element to where they have these uniforms and you know who they are. So they were able to blend in for a long time. And once they started blending in, they had Baghdad, and then they had the outskirts of Baghdad. Now, Baghdad is where they come in and they try to attack, 3 targets mainly. So they want to attack Iraqis. They want to attack Iraqi, police. And then third, they were going to target the coalition forces. So they were actually over there to do horrible, horrible things to the Iraqi people. And, when they finally started realizing that they would go to the outskirts, they would seek safe haven, and they would come back to Baghdad and fight. There were small places inside of Baghdad that they really wanted to focus. These efforts to cause this strife between two factions of Shia and Sunni,
Right.
and one of those was Al-Dura.
Yeah. It was like the Wild West in Al-Dura. So the one time something that me and Sean had happen is we had a kid one day. He was, like I said, people kind of knew where we were, but this kid was kind of going above and beyond to really point out our location and to kind of make sure that we were being seen. And we got the call one day. We called up and told them what was going on, and we got the call to go to the truck and get the M14. And the M14 is just a larger caliber rifle, and they wanted to make sure that this kid stopped pointing out our location. So,
how old was this kid?
See, that's the thing. He was probably, I want to say, between 14 and 16. So really, probably didn't understand what he was doing. And kid really didn't know what he was doing. And Sean got behind the gun, and I asked him. I said, "Look, you've done this before. He told you about his Ranger Battalion days." I said, "Can I take the shot?" And he said, "Yeah, no problem." He let me behind the gun, and he said, "Look, put it center mass. Hold on 1 second. I got to call up for authority. I got to make sure it's a good shot." So he walks behind the wall, because there's a wall upstairs. He walks behind, and he stands there for about 30 seconds, calls up for clearance on the shot, comes back around, and this is where he makes one of the best command decisions I've ever had made in my life. He tells me not to take the shot.
So happy that's
Wow. So what was the reason behind not taking the shot? It was because he just too young to take the shot, or what was the reason?
Just because you're at war, man, you still have decisions you got to make.
Right.
So you still have to live with everything you do. Like that's the thing that a lot of people don't get. You have to live with every decision you make, and that just would have been a bad decision. And luckily, he saw that and he made that call.
Wow.
I didn't find out until about 5 years later, when I was best man at his wedding, that the XO told me to smoke that kid. Like, that kid should have definitely got shot. And luckily, I am so happy about it every day of my life that shot was not taken, because it would have been regrettable.
Is there consequences for? Because I'm assuming there was an order to take that shot, and then but he has the authorities to make the call. Is that the case?
I think it was just kind of one of those on the spot calls where it was just like, you know what, that's kind of messed up. Yeah. Like, don't shoot that kid.
Sean, what makes you make that decision? Because at the same time, is it putting you at risk if someone like that kid is still out there kind of pointing out your position? How do you choose between safety of you and your team and potentially making a regrettable decision?
Like I said, each one of these trips is unique. And then what we have to understand is that we're ultimately in somebody else's neighborhood. This is ultimately places where people have to live. And then sometimes you got to take yourself out from this weird Stanford prison experiment and understand that you're a visitor, and these kids were just being kids, man. And then you get some other people that might view this, and they try to make up these scenarios sometimes in their head to where it's like, this guy's bad.
Yeah.
And it's fitting some narrative that they want them to fit, and at that point in time, it's being greater than the moment, and it's understanding that, hey, look, my first and foremost duty here is to take care of these guys and then make sure that they're okay. And that came from that decision. That came from the decision to find some locks and lock up the doors so we can get a little bit of sleep every night.
Yeah.
And that was very important. And we called this place Steve's house. So this house that we were in was actually an old dentistry area. So this was a dentist that stayed there. Of course, it was all messed up at the time.
Yeah.
There's a front door, a back door. It's connected to adjacent buildings next to it, just like shopping centers you'll see in the city. And on the back side of it, that back door And then the upstairs you can see out a window, and that's where this we had glass, we had we had eyes on down the road. We could see this neighborhood. It's just this neighborhood, and then there's this one little room inside of it, probably where Steve had his office.
Dentist chair, yeah.
Yeah, and then we would, we would lock up the front door and the back door at night, and I would, we'd have them, we'd rotate off shifts so we could actually sleep at night. And then that was Steve's house, and then we have this place called Cop Haraya.
Okay, Cop Haraya. So Cop Haraya was.
Hold on, let us situate ourselves for another story.
The way that you breathed out, you're like
sweating over here.
You're like, all right, here we go. I was like, well, oh my god.
Yeah. All right. So Cop Haraya is a very, very, very personal story to me, and it's another one of those things where I didn't find out the whole story until years later. So Cop Haraya, there was a scheduling mistake between when forces were supposed to take over the section of Baghdad. He had the 101st Airborne that was supposed to take the section over from the 82nd Airborne, but there was about a 2-week lull period where they're just what they weren't in country, or something happened where their leadership wasn't ready for the right seat, left seat rides, or I don't know, something happened where we had to basically take over a section and then hand that section over right away. The cop was a dingy basement that just had a bunch of concrete barriers around it. There really wasn't much. There was cots in there and like a TV. So there wasn't much there. We ran a lot of missions out of here, and I don't know what's up with the 82nd Airborne, but they were really aggressive with the local population, like really, really aggressive with these people. I don't know if that was their mission or their plan, or that was just how they, did their thing, but they were extremely aggressive with the local population around there for no reason. And, we take it over. We're operating. We do a couple of raids, hit a couple of big caches of cash and weapons. So we know people are pissed off at us now, because we definitely just took like a couple $100,000 and we found like a bunch of rooms with like full of weapons. So we really hit whatever, like the Jaish al-Mahdi was there. We really hit the jam hard, like within a couple of days. And we one night we're out on missions, and we come back to the cop to refit and then to go back out. I'm currently driving the vehicle at the time. Now I'm not really a driver. I've driven a couple, for like a week or two. Like I'm a 6'5" dude. I usually kick doors, and I'm not behind a driver's wheel of a vehicle.
And the vehicle is a Striker, by the way.
Yeah, the vehicle's a Striker, which is like a phenomenal combat vehicle. And I was running my mouth the whole time. I was really, really making the platoon sergeant mad. And we call up all of our packs, which is all the people, and we're in line ready to go out the gate. The gate lifts. Now, when the gate lifts, you start your mission. That's it. The gate lifted, you go and come back. Well, for some reason, the gate drops, and Sergeant Martin drops out, and he's like, "Bailey, get out of the vehicle. You're staying back with your squad. You guys are pulling security. Like, just get out. Like, someone else is gonna come over here and take your place. Like, just grab your gun and get out." So I get my get. I get out of the truck. I go inside, I eat some food, and then I go up to like the northwest corner of the tower, sitting there pulling guard, just doing my thing, watching, making sure no one's coming around. It's nighttime. It's like real dark out, and all you hear is through the city, like a deep, like not a bomb, just a woof sound. And I look over, and I'm with this guy named Casillas, and I'm like, "Yo, someone just got messed up." And he's like, "Yo, our boys are out there right now." Didn't think about that, because I'm back at the cop, so I assume all of my friends are back at the cop too, because that's usually what happens. Well, it turns out our 3-2 vehicle got hit, the vehicle I was sitting in, and the driver lost his legs from an EFP. They called me up dead over the radio because they thought I was still in the driver's hatch. And the truck burnt down to the ground right in the middle of the city. All of our ordnance burnt down, blew up, exploded off of it. cooked off all the rounds, burnt down all of our mail. And luckily, no one really got hurt besides Josh. He lost his legs above his knee. Our interpreter.
Yeah, going back to Josh. So before the striker burnt down, he is inside the driver's hatch, and his team leader at the time, this dude Ryan Van Hoy,
Oh my God!
jumps on the truck, opens up the hatch, and tries to pull Josh out to safety. Well, he's stuck, and the reason he's stuck is because part of his legs are still attached. Right, most of them are gone. So quick thinking, Ryan pulls out a knife and cuts the remaining of the flesh of his legs off so he can save his life.
Yeah, he was wrapped around the steering wheel. His legs were wrapped around the steering wheel, and he was on fire. He was completely on fire, and no burns, no scratches, no cuts. Lost his legs, and that was it. And they said, Doc Kellen, our medic, it was just Johnny on the spot. Plugged them with a couple of IVs. They said at the cache that they've never seen tourniquets put on like that before. That they were perfect. They just said that it was like 1, 2, 3 people reacted to it, and they saved his life. He's doing good today.
Wow. What goes through your mind knowing that you were about to be in that same exact position?
Let Sean tell you the rest of it. You want to know why? You want to know why I wasn't in that seat?
Yeah. So I made it a point to have the rest of my team. If we're all going to be there on guard, I want to have my team together. It wasn't. I don't think it was necessarily. Some leaders have different aspects on this, but I think for the most part, they always want to have their guys with them, no matter what they're doing. So I made it a big point to complain. I was pretty vocal to my squad leader and platoon sergeant that I wanted John to stay back. And then the platoon sergeant wasn't convinced, but thanks to John's vocalness inside the truck, and he kicked him out, and I already planted that seed. But yeah, if you guys are ready for another good story, John, thank you so much, dude. I love you. Thank you so much for helping out, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate you guys.
John, thank you so much. I do want to ask one more question before you leave.
Sure.
And this is something that I think goes back to what you said before, and I'm just so interested in kind of like the psychology behind this. There was a moment when you were telling a story before where you specifically asked to take the shot when we were talking about the kid.
Right.
If it's even possible to explain kind of the thought process behind, knowing you didn't have to, why offer that up? Why to take the shot?
Because you already asked that question in the beginning. Do you want to do it or not? Why'd you go to war? Why'd you join the infantry? So all that sounds good, and it's good while you're doing it until it's happening back to you and that first bomb goes off. Once you hear bombs, you stop wanting to fight. Then it stops becoming a joke. It stops being you're the winner all the time. Things can happen to you. So wanting to take that shot, I just wanted to experience war. I was a young guy. You know what I mean? I was 20. I didn't know any better, and it was something that I was excited for. And I thank God every day that I didn't take that shot. I really do. I think about it often. That probably crosses my mind at least once a week. What would have happened? Because there was no missing. There was no missing this. There was. He was but maybe 50 yards away, so there wasn't a miss. His whole family was there. He was probably holding his little brother or sister. Like there was no missing this, and it would have been a terrible, horrible scene.
Wow.
And honestly, I'm happy Sean didn't do it, and I'm happy I said something to him, so I didn't let him take that shot. Because for all I know, he might want to take that shot in front of me.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, we'll let Sean finish everything up, but thank you so much for coming on, sharing that, perspective.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
And thank you for your service, of course.
Oh, no problem, man. I appreciate it. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you again.
Thanks.
Bye.
Yeah, so
all right.
Here we go. Later on in that same deployment, we have a houseborn IED who actually kills 6 of our soldiers and 1 interpreter in Central Iraq, and this is the Central 7. Now, when this happens on 9 January 2008, I'm still with John over a different company, and unfortunately, they have the task with replacing all of these soldiers. They have to go out to the battalion and pick people for scouts. So here I am going to scouts, and some of the missions that we did over there, these missions where you have assets and the assets ping, and then you land close on your helicopter and you go take out the bad guy, right? One of these missions will never leave my memory because it went really bad really fast. I was on Overwatch, overwatching another team about to enter a house and clear it. The target that we were going after, um, unbeknownst to us, had put his family inside the courtyard to basically shield himself from anybody trying to infill the house as he slept inside. The team goes up, they place a charge on the gate, they blow the charge, and everyone inside the courtyard just gets horrifically injured. So, moving the team away, they have the medics start treating. They push that team that initially entered because they were so close to it. They pushed them on security and they pushed our team in to actually treat the injured. And we were there in a matter of like a minute, right? So I just remember, you know, helping out as much as I could. There's a teenage girl that's horrifically injured. She's being treated. There's a boy being treated by two of my soldiers, and I'm sitting here with this infant, and I just remember bandaging this infant and holding this infant, treating it while directing traffic, and the baby stops crying. It just went silent, and I was like, no, no. And then the baby starts crying again, thank God. And I just look around and there's an Iraqi lady just standing next to me crying. And I was like, please take this baby. And the interpreter asked her to care for the baby. And she's told me, thank you. We called in a medevac bird. We didn't have a litter at the time, but, we used what we had, which was a carpet. And we moved that girl because she was the worst injured off to the bird. And everyone survived. All of those people survived. Wow. And we captured the bad guy.
Wow. This has been an intense, however long it's been, let me tell you.
I feel like it's been 7 days.
Yeah, and I mean I feel like that's kind of a perfect way to segue into the PTSD side of your story, because I mean you're just telling us a few stories. We're not able to put ourselves in your shoes or anything like that, or really experience it. And even us right now, just hearing it, sitting on these recliners, like just talking to you over the phone, we can feel the anxiety and stress of the situations on a very small scale, and it still feels like, whoa. So I can only imagine like actually going through it and, the effects that has. So, I'm sure it would be very helpful to hear your experience with PTSD, how it affects you, and how you kind of, cope with it. So can you tell us about that?
Like I said previously, I'm not an expert on PTSD. I'm still learning everything myself. But what I can try to convey to people that are dealing with traumatic events, one is that not every traumatic event is just combat related. There are people out there dealing with PTSD that have had traumatic incidents happen in their lives, whether it be car crashes or some other horrible events that they just can't escape. And my advice to these people, and again, I'm no expert, is to honestly listen to those people that care about them the most around them. Because for me, my support network, and of course, I can't thank enough my wife Elena, who's been my rock through this whole thing, and it's that support network that we have to have. It's that caregiver that we have to have that helps us through and helps us maintain. And if you're listening now and you don't think you have that person, if anybody's been around you and they tell you that you have these signs and symptoms, and I just want to briefly talk about some of them. And like I said, I'm no expert, but here are some issues that I've that I've been made aware to myself. One of those is sleep issues, nightmares, anxiety, depression, hopelessness, emotional numbing, irritability, periods of hyperactivity that are followed by periods of withdrawal, hypervigilance, memory issues, impulses, need for control, and avoidance. Now, for me, this comes in a myriad of ways. So the way that I dealt with my anxiety and depression was this use of alcohol. I used to abuse alcohol severely, and I just tried to drown out these emotions and try to basically numb myself to everything that I was feeling. And and Alina helped me realize that in a loving way, and it's with care and concern. And so I stopped drinking. I actually, the Army has a program called Alcohol Substance and Abuse Program. It works very well. I self-enrolled myself, and I decided to go abstain from alcohol after that. I'm very glad that I did. And then, currently I'm stationed down in Fort Polk, Louisiana. So I work for this operations group at JRTC. JRTC is the Joint Rotational Training Center. All the units come here to train, but good Army stuff before they take off. And I had the opportunity of working at this place called Live Fire Division. And working at Live Fire, people that come down here and train, part of their training is with, blank rounds and lasers. It's like they're playing laser tag with this Miles equipment. But when they come to live fire, the blank adapters come off, and we're going to shoot live rounds, right? So at the time, for this one particular mission, I was shot calling an objective. It was a follow-on objective for a company. So they had two other companies hit this objective before they came to us. So, they hit Puma, they're going to Cheetah. I'm shot calling Cheetah. I have two target operators with me, and one actually goes into cardiac arrest. And again, you're going to that point to where you got to stop the mission, you got to make things happen. So there I am, directing traffic again, getting stuff done, and everybody that was on that mission did everything they could to save this man's life, but unfortunately they couldn't. And so after that, that hit me, and that brought back some stuff that obviously I had internally that I was trying to suppress. And then I end up, becoming pretty upset about that. My wife recommended that I go seek behavioral health. So I actually went and talked to a therapist. And after talking to a therapist, they're like, look, we're going to have to admit you. So I was suicidal at the time, and they actually sent me to Longleaf Medical here in Alexandria, Louisiana. And I was admitted to inpatient for about a week. And I mean, one of those places where you can't have laces in your shoes, right? And, after I came out of that treatment, that the operations group took great care of me. My first sergeant Rollins talked to my sergeant major, and they actually found me a position inside of operations group where I have like a desk job now. And, life is really good. But it's through that support system that I had, especially with my wife, that I was able to come back from that dark place and realize that, life is better. Life is better, and it's worth living. Don't, make a lifelong decision based on one choice. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything's worth it. Life itself is, it's so much better than the dark place that you might be feeling right now. And this dark place that you feel, it's kind of like having a hidden monster, right? So when you have this hidden monster, when people have a broken leg, you can see, man, they got a broken leg, they're limping, it's something visible. When you're dealing with signs of symptoms of PTSD, it's hidden. This anxiety is hidden, this depression is hidden. I mean, this hypervigilance exists to this day. I can't go around crowds. It's very difficult for me. I'm watching everyone's hands all the time, and it becomes part of your norm. Like, you know what I mean? This is your normal. This is how you operate, but it's not normal at the same time. That's not something that you should be doing all the time, but it just becomes something that, and for me, I think an outlet, for me, especially in social situations, is humor. I mask a lot of my symptoms behind comedy. I try to make people laugh around me, and that brings me joy. So I definitely appreciate that. Apologies to anybody if I've ever said bad jokes. You just have to deal with it. But this is one of those things, and I'm just very, very lucky to have the support network that I do. And I plead for anybody, if you think that you have any form of PTSD, a lot of these things are not right out in the open until a traumatic event happens. And then all of a sudden you need to get treatment. How about we try to offset that need for treatment and just go get it right away? Go talk to somebody right now. Don't wait till something traumatic happens before you have to seek help.
It's fantastic advice. That's a good point. And yeah, I mean, of course it can come in all different forms. And, you know, I think we've once briefly touched on it before in an episode with the survivor of the Vegas shooting. And her telling us how she was at dinner with her family. I think a car like backfired or whatever in the parking lot, and she physically got up and ran from the restaurant uncontrollably.
Right.
And just like, I think it could just show how severe some of these symptoms are. But I think, like you said, you know, it's not always that severe, and they're invisible, and, you know, you might be the only one who understands them, and it helps to, you know, talk about these and find your support system. And I think that's, you know, really, really helpful. And, you know, I think you've been kind of one of the most candid, you know, open guests that we've had on, and, you know, we appreciate that so much.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. I definitely want to send some rest in peace to some soldiers that I've lost along the way, if you guys don't mind.
Absolutely, please.
So 14 November 2003, Jade Blessing. 22 April 2004, Pat Tillman. 08 April 2005, Niels Thompson. 9 January 2008, the Central 7, Matthew Pionk, Sean Gall, Jonathan Dozier, Christopher Sanders, Zachary McBride, Todd Davis, and interpreter Mohammed. Rest in peace. We love you guys. Thank you for your service.
We really appreciate that, man.
Yeah,
and,
dude, thank you.
Thank you for your service, and really just putting, I think, you know, just that human element behind all of this. I think for us, it's so easy, and, you know, we sit there and we know there's a war going on. We know there's operations, but, you know, just to hear about some of these situations, the day-to-day that you've lived out, you know, just that reminder, like, soldiers, they are just people too, and a lot of them are in first-time situations, and it really helps to hear those stories.
Yeah, and we know that it might not be the easiest thing in the world for people to talk about this, so we definitely appreciate you coming on, and you know, we're very happy to hear that you know, you're in a good place and you're working towards you know, getting better as far as the PTSD goes. And yeah, just thank you for your service. Really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Cole, behind the scenes. You guys put on a great show, and I appreciate what you guys do as well.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you, man. Have a good night.
Yeah, take care, guys.
All right, so our first sponsor for today is BetterHelp. BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You can start communicating in under 24 hours, so they're very quick to hook you up with somebody. The service is available for clients worldwide. You can log in to your account anytime and send a message to your counselor. You'll get timely and thoughtful responses. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions, so you won't ever have to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room like with traditional therapy. BetterHelp is also committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they make it easy and free to change counselors if needed, which is huge. But yeah, it's also more affordable than traditional offline counseling, and financial aid is available.
Yeah, and all you need to do is visit betterhelp.com/OPL. That's BetterHelp, HELP, .com/OPL, and you can join over 700,000 people that are taking charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. And there's a special offer for Other People's Lives listeners. You'll get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/OPL.
Our next sponsor is Honey.
I love Honey. Honey is a free online shopping tool that automatically finds the best promo codes and applies them to your cart. It's amazing saving with Honey. I use it personally all the time. Recently, since me and Joe are into boxing now, I needed some boxing shoes. Put them in my cart. Honey, right on my browser, gave me a 25% promo code that worked. I ended up saving like $28.75. All because Honey, you know, was right there on my browser. Honey has found over 18 million members, over $2 billion in savings. It's free savings basically. And it supports over 30,000 stores online, including Macy's, Target, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. And they're adding more stores every single day. And users love Honey. It has over 100,000 5-star reviews on the Google Chrome store.
Yeah, one of the most fun things about Honey now when you use it is like being on a site and you're like, oh look, there's discounts for this site also. It's amazing. You could save on sites that you didn't even know existed. It's amazing. Plus, it's free to use and installs in just a few seconds. Get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/OPL. Makes no sense why you wouldn't get this. You're saving money. It's free to have. Go to joinhoney.com/OPL today. That is joinhoney.com/OPL.
Our next sponsor is Undercover Tourist.
I'm actually going to take over this one because I went to Disney recently, and Undercover Tourist I didn't know what they were yet, and now that I do, I wish I could have used them, because if you're planning a vacation, you know it's hard work and overwhelming, especially if you're going to a theme park, which is what they specialize in. You can get the exact same tickets at theme parks you know and love for less, and there's no catch. You can save up to $145 on each theme park ticket, which is a ton, especially when you're going with like a family of 4 or 6. I think I went with 8 people, so I would have been saving the world, and it was costly. I wanted to do a nice thing
right now.
I wish I had it. It was amazing. 20 years of quality service, providing theme park and attraction tickets at discounted prices. 8+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. Nice. But yeah, it's hassle-free. Email or physical tickets. Skip the lines at the gate and go straight to the rides. 90-day ticket returns. But yeah, and also they have this thing. It's a free planning tool. So if you go like theme parks, there's a billion things to do there. So they have free park plans, what to do and when, saving you on average 4 hours a day, not standing in line. So this place, if you're going to a theme park, if you're going to Disney, definitely use Undercover Tourist.
This makes sense. And I want to go to a theme park right now. But if you do, you can start planning your next theme park vacation now by visiting undercovertourist.com/OPL. And that's an additional discount that you get using OPL on top of the big savings already offered through Undercover Tourist. So that's undercovertourist.com/OPL. Go save that money and book a trip. You know when you like see like a crazy epic movie?
I feel like I just breathed for the first time since we hit record.
Yeah. I feel like I just got to have like a 4-hour movie and like the lights came on.
See, like it's crazy because like you and like we won't even know like what we think how that went, like how you pictured it when they were telling those stories. It was probably 400 times worse, and it was just like it's wild, man. Like. It's really crazy. Like, and the thing that's crazy about it is that people sign up to do it because, and thank God they do, because if they didn't, then who knows what would happen.
Yes, but that's the thing. This is just that reminder that sure, some people go out of their way to sign up. They might seek it, but it doesn't make a difference. He is us. You know, him and Sean and John, who we just spoke to. That could be us.
Yeah.
That could be us. Going through 2 years of training and then finding ourselves in that situation. Like this is the same species. These are the same people. They're not super people. Like it is just us. It's an average person in these situations. And I think some of those stories like that just really, you know, it hit hard. And for some reason I just like I don't know what they look like, but I kept picturing us for some reason.
Really?
Which is weird. I don't know why. But also their friendship and that experience is, you know, pretty amazing.
Dude, I just can't even picture that. And like, you know, the military, anyone who is in the military has served, if their family has served, like we thank all of you guys for your service. And especially these two guys coming on and giving perspective to everyone that listens to the show about, you know, how real it is, and then also dealing with the effects after that. Because then, you know, it's one thing to go to war, you survive, you go through all these traumatic experiences every single day, and then you come home and then there's after effects, you know, like
you don't shake
then you
those
deal with that, you know, for the rest of your life, and then you have to try and get back to like a normal way of living, you know, and
going
it's
to
difficult.
the grocery store, like
and like he was talking about, he's like, I can't really
simple-
be around crowds because I'm looking at everyone's hands and making sure they're not pulling a gun or something.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, no, it's and it reminds me of so Tim O'Brien. He's a Vietnam War vet. He's an author. He wrote a few books, and I've been watching this documentary about the Vietnam War. And one of his quotes was just talking about bravery in the sense of like, it doesn't have to be this big heroic thing. Like he was talking about in Vietnam. And I think it's very similar in Iraq and Afghanistan. Like I never knew bravery could just be waking up in the morning and walking. Just going out into an environment, a terrain. You don't know when a bomb's going to go off. Everyone's trying to kill you, but you don't know, is this just a person living their life, or is this a person who wants to kill me because they look the same? And him just saying, like, I would just look down at my legs sometimes, just asking myself, how am I walking? Like, how am I going forward? How am I getting, in this case, in this car and just driving over a road that I know probably has, roadside bombs all over it? It's just like, it's just crazy the mentality that you have to be, and just being on edge all the time. And it's just like, no wonder that's going to have an effect on you. And I was looking it up before the call, like different studies, but everywhere from like 11 to 20% of soldiers, some up to 30% of soldiers experiencing PTSD for, like this specific, like Iraqi freedom, things like that. That's a high number.
Yeah, it's a lot.
High number.
Yeah.
But yeah, just, I think to be able to speak to someone who, has been in that situation and who has, very openly and admittedly, I mean, it's war. Like people kill people in war, but to just, be able to talk about that situation of, taking another person's life,
who may be a child. And like, that was the thing that was cool about the episode, because it was so like real in that, in those situations, like for the guy to be like, yo, I volunteered to shoot this kid.
Yeah.
And we got the reason why. And it was a very real reason why. Because at the end of the day, like even when you watch like movies about the army or like whatever, there is an element of people being bored and being like, I wish there was a firefight right now.
Right.
And it's like that can't come from nowhere. But it's like what he said in his experience. He's like, once you get it, but like once that first one goes off, you're like, well, fuck this. Like I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
And he
wanted to get, once the bombs go off, like
you don't want to fight.
Yeah, you don't want to fight. And like I think
and it's out of pure survival that you have to.
It's like the Mike Tyson quote, like everyone has a game plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
Or us, like we're big boxers now. We've been working out. Like once you get that first jab in the face, it's like, okay, this is a little different than
less
what
fun.
I thought it was.
Yeah.
But wow. Yeah, thank you for their service, and thank you for everyone's service who is currently serving or has served.
Yeah. But anyway, if you guys, again, you could check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/otherpeopleslives to watch full episodes of the podcast.
Yes, this is up. If you're listening, this is up right now. You can come watch us have this conversation.
Right. And our Instagram is at OPL Podcast, so go follow us on Instagram as well.
Yep. We got bonus episodes on the Patreon, patreon.com/OPL show. And please leave a rating and a review. It helps a lot on iTunes. And thank you, as always, for listening.
See you guys next time.